Let's look at some facts. Fact: Donald Trump was elected the 45th President of the United States of America. This is not going to be about politics, and this presentation is neither for nor against Trump. We're just stating the facts here. Here's another fact. Mainstream media got it wrong. Way wrong. For an entire year, they were saying Trump wasn't going to win. And they've been wrong about a lot of other things too, haven't they? As soon as Trump won the election, they started making predictions about what would happen to the stock market. And really, it was only a matter of hours before those predictions began to be proven false. So I think you would agree that we really should not be taking advice, much less financial advice, from the media, right? Still, we can make some educated guesses, can't we? How about inflation or hyperinflation? Many well-known and highly educated economists are predicting massive inflation, so much so that the term Trumpflation has practically become a household word. Now, there are some facts that point to that kind of scenario. In fact, in Trump's victory speech, he said this: "We're going to fix our inner cities and rebuild our highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, schools, hospitals, etc." In other words, Trump's plan is to spend trillions of dollars on a large-scale stimulus program by spending that money on public works. Now here's an even more important fact. The Federal Reserve is already leveraged 110 to 1. We could get into a lot of details about this, but basically for every dollar the Fed has in the bank, they have $110 of debt. You see, this is by no means a problem that Trump is creating. It's a problem that he's inheriting, and it would be the same problem regardless of who had won the election. And by the way, I got that number directly from the most recent balance sheet released to the public by the Federal Reserve, showing over $4.4 trillion of liabilities and only $40 billion of capital. Now, I applaud the Fed for being transparent enough to release their balance sheet each quarter, but this is a very extreme situation that most of the public has no idea about. They're in a much worse position today than they were when the recession of 2008 hit. On top of that, the private banking system is totally over-leveraged again too. That's another fact. Meanwhile, the Fed keeps printing new money. Again, it's a fact. They've added over $3.9 trillion of new money to our money supply since 2008. So we're already in the middle of a totally unstable monetary situation, and under the new administration, the Fed is likely to print trillions of dollars of more money. And again, that's not really Trump's fault. We'd be looking at the same problem if Hillary had won. But it's the perfect storm for hyperinflation. If that happens, you can kiss the US dollar goodbye and our economy will essentially crumble. Suddenly the dollar could be worth almost nothing. Imagine waking up one day and finding that a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread costs thousands or even millions of dollars. Most Americans don't think it could happen, but it's happened in other countries over 50 times in the last 100 years. And the conditions are ripe for it to happen in America. Now, it's not a fact that that's going to happen, but it is an educated guess that's being made by many experts outside the mainstream media. And there are also other facts that are pointing to the possible collapse of the US dollar that, again, have nothing to do with Trump and his plans. One of them is the International Monetary Fund, also known as the IMF. For decades, the USA has had the most clout and the most voting power in the IMF, which has helped ensure that the dollar keeps its global importance and thus its value. There are 189 countries in the IMF, and it is a fact that the balance of power is shifting this year, right now, out of the hands of the USA and into the hands of several countries who would band together to vote against the US dollar. And when the world's economy decides to separate itself from the US dollar, the dollar will fall. There are plenty of countries that would love to see an end to global dependence on the US dollar, not the least of which is China. As you can imagine, they would rather see the yuan be the strongest currency in the world. As you may also know, China is the most populous country on Earth and is quickly rising to potentially become the world's next superpower. There are actually multiple ways that China could send the US economy into chaos. One of those ways, which would be equally bad for China, is if China's economy collapsed. It would send the entire global market into a tailspin. And yet, here is a fact that points to that being a very real possibility. China's banks have put themselves in a potentially more dangerous position than America's were before the 2008 collapse. As you may recall, America's banks were buying up bad mortgages and basically holding ridiculous amounts of bad paper heading into the recession. Those asset-backed securities were worth a fraction of their stated value and ultimately led to a global crisis. Well, now a similar situation is occurring in China, only worse. The amount of asset-based securities being bought by the Chinese banks is astronomical. They call them wealth management products, but it's really the same kind of artificial stuff that the American banks were buying before 2008. Back in 2012, Xiao Gong, the chairman of the board of the Bank of China, said, to some extent, this is fundamentally a Ponzi scheme. So they've been at this for a while now, and that's another catalyst that could bring down America's economy at any time in the near future. There are a lot of other catalysts that could lead to America's demise that we just don't have time to cover. Some of those risks come from the outside, like terrorist attacks. Some of them from the inside, like racial tension and other civil disagreements that are already leading to violence. Again, we have facts to look at here. If you live outside America, you've probably seen some of the headlines. But if you live inside America, you've probably begun to experience the tension yourself. Probably in your town, maybe even with your own neighbors and extended family members. There are too many facts and too many warning signs to ignore it. At some point, we will see the stock market fall big time. There simply has to be a day of reckoning. It's in accordance with the laws of nature. Whether it's a slow decline or a fast crash, it will go down. And in a minute, we're going to talk about how to gain massive wealth in the midst of those scenarios. Now, what we don't know for sure is whether that will happen during Trump's presidency. You see, here's another fact. Trump doesn't like to lose. If you watched him battle through the election, you'll know that. Trump does not want to see the U.S. economy tank on his watch. Here's another fact. Trump is the richest U.S. president ever. In fact, he has more money than all of the previous presidents combined. Yes, he's made a lot of mistakes in his businesses too, but still, whether you like him or not, unless you have more money than him, you have to admit he knows a thing or two about creating wealth. And here's one more fact that we can't ignore. The Fed has proven that they're able to prop up the market and economy year after year by printing more money and controlling the interest rates. In spite of what most experts predicted, the market has gone up and the U.S. economy has grown for the last 8 years in spite of the factors working against it. I'll say it one more time. A day of reckoning will come. But is it possible that Trump's administration could delay it for another 8 years? It is possible. And that leads me to one more fact. You cannot predict the future. That is a fact. Yes, we can make some educated guesses, but no one can accurately predict the future 100% of the time. Back in the recession of 2008, over $50 trillion of wealth was lost. Most likely we'll see a much bigger loss when the next market crash happens. As I said in the beginning of this video, millions of Americans and citizens in other countries around the world are going to lose massive amounts of money and wealth in the near future. That'll certainly be the case if we see the market go down, but it will also be the case if we see the market continue to go up. How do I know? Because millions of people will be positioned on the wrong side of the equation. The only sure thing is that a lot of wealth is going to change hands. So how can you protect yourself and your family and set yourself up to be on the winning side of this great transfer of wealth? The answer is to put yourself in a win-win situation. How do you do that? You can do it with our trading system called the Trading Code, which is a completely unique system that you will not find anywhere else. Our Trading Code system is designed to generate income regardless of which direction the market is going, but is especially formulated for the risks that are facing our economy today. The system is designed to profit drastically if the market goes down. As I showed you, there are a lot of facts pointing to that eventuality, and the system takes that into account. But at the same time, it can still make money if the market keeps going up. As of the day this video is being made, our system is outperforming the market by 300%. It was outperforming before Trump was elected and will continue to outperform regardless of who's elected in the future. How do we know? Because the system works in all types of markets. When the market started falling in the hours after the election, this system was poised to capitalize on the downward move. It just so happened that the market went on a fast upward move instead, which was not a problem. The very same position that would have profited from the downward move has profited from the major upward move. Yes, the same position is able to make money whether the market moves up or down, and whether there is high volatility or low volatility. This is the one method that can put you into a win-win situation to gain wealth in today's market. We're now experiencing a 97% win rate with the new and refined version of this system. That's an incredible win rate that we've never seen with any other system. But with our system, you could even have a losing track record and still make money. One quarter back in 2014, we had 8 wins and 9 losses, but still had a 38% profit. That's obviously a lot better than you could do by putting your money into the bank or any traditional investment. In a minute, I'll explain why we're giving you over $1,000 worth of free bonuses just to try our system. But first, I want to introduce you to the creator of the system, Robert Maude. First of all, he's not a professional trader on Wall Street. Robert runs a multi-million-dollar chemical and water treatment company and is also a real estate broker and investor. He wanted to put his money to better use and started looking at all kinds of investment opportunities. With a wife and 4 kids, he needed something that didn't take much time. He wanted to create passive income so he could work as much or little as he wanted. So he started trading options over 23 years ago. He took the concept of trial and error to the extreme, developing and testing 198 trading models over the years. Out of those, 154 were not profitable. So he took the remaining 44 trading models and back-tested them extensively to see how they would have performed over the long run. From those, he whittled it down to 17 that he further tested, and then down to 8 winning models. And he continued to refine those 8 into the proprietary system that we're going to be handing to you